Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of WordSpoken, the brand new podcast looking to showcase some of the finest talent on the spoken word scene in the UK right now. This is the very first episode, and believe me, this is called Starting As You Mean to Go On. But before we get on to that, let me tell you a little bit about what this podcast is all about. We're talking performance poetry and spoken word. Each episode is going to feature a different spoken word artist performing 3 different pieces. Not only are we going to get a chance to hear these poets perform, but we're also going to talk about some of the issues and themes raised in their work, whilst also getting to know a bit about the person behind the poetry. For updates on who's coming on to the show next, and for anything else, please follow us on Instagram at WordSpoken Podcast. And one of the poems you're about to hear will be uploaded in video format to our brand new YouTube channel. So if I was you, I'd head over to that and subscribe right now to keep up with all the freshest spoken word content and to support our poets. Now that that's done, let me introduce you to our very first guest. He goes by the name of Aiz Hussain. Give him a follow on Instagram at Aiz Poetry. That's AIZ Poetry. This guy has only been in the game for 1 year, but he is living, breathing proof that it's not how long you've been doing it, it's how well you do it. He has a video online which has racked up more than 125,000 views. He's performed at the Roundhouse Slam. He was a finalist as the Asia House Poetry Slam, and that's not the half of it. He's also been on the radio multiple times for BBC Asia Network and featured on BBC World News Network. Born in South London as a British Pakistani second-generation immigrant, he says that he's on a mission to turn his struggles with life and death into positive messages for the whole world to learn from. His poetry is honest, cutting, and purposeful, so I'm excited to get him on. Please do bear in mind that in this episode we will touch upon themes such as suicide, mental health and sexual violence. The first piece he's going to perform for us though, he wrote after going to Notting Hill Carnival, and it's called Poetry Riddim.
I'm gonna hit you with a rhythm, so listen from this beginning. I'm spitting for the men and the women who keep on sinning, filling and billing a zoot to pass around and have a toke. Ain't like the Lizzie that politicians used to sniff. Living as a villain, unwilling to ever listen and spilling their opinion whenever there's a drilling. Fulfilling the austerity they keep on instilling. They might make a killing, but we're really the ones winning. Because struggle and strife taught us true kindness. We exchange compliments because we know that they're priceless. Embracing friends, family, old flames and our neighbours. A quick smile goes a long way in making the day of a stranger. Remember to shovel love towards yourself the same amount you gave. Because your generosity should never dig your own grave. Make the most out of life and celebrate all the positives. Say I can't believe I did that more than I should have done this. Good things come to those who wait, yeah sure. But my question to you is, well, what are you waiting for? I said to myself, I need self-confidence instead of self-loathing. I started writing lyrics to help myself begin growing. So like, instead of just sitting on my ass and doing that about it and running rings around the rhymes I think to spit in, I commit to bars because I don't want to quit. I'm a poetry addict more than I hate to admit. Take it in, take time, take a breath, rewind, take a breath, take time to get in your mind. Find out what's missing and do your best living. Who am I kidding? I'm just a poet with a little rhythm.
Aiz, thank you so much for that. That first poem was absolutely fantastic. And also, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. Very first episode of WordSpoken.
Yeah.
How are you doing, man?
Nah, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm doing good.
You well?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a crazy 4 months and I'm just happy to be here. Happy to be with you. Henry, honestly, this is such an important platform and I hope everyone tunes in and starts listening.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really hoping for this podcast, right, to really become a space for poets to come and perform their work, right? And so thank you very much for saying yes, man. I have to say as well, man, you were actually one of the first people I ever really met on the scene.
Seriously?
You were one of the first people that came up to me. I'm not even joking, man. It's why it's so apt that you're on for the first episode of this. Because you were one of the first people that came up to me after a session. After a session.
Boxed in. It was boxed in.
At Boxed In, man. And you came up to me and I was so touched, man. It was such a lovely thing for you to do. So yeah, I thought I'd get you on for this one.
No, I really appreciate it. Honestly, when someone puts their all into a poem like you did at Boxed In, I just have to speak to them. And I think that's what poetry for me is about. Well, the poetry scene in particular. It's all about connecting with people and hearing stories that you don't necessarily hear in the mainstream media. Yeah. So for me, whenever I go to an open mic night or any poetry event and I hear someone perform, I need to hear their story. I want to hear more. I want to learn more. I want to connect with them. I want to find them on social media. Yeah. I want to stay in touch. And obviously it can lead to things like this as well, where I can have more of a conversation with you and learn about each other. And I think that's just not just the beauty of poetry, it's the beauty of life.
Totally. Yeah, mate, you're 100% right. So on that kind of note, my first kind of question to you, mate, is how did you get into spoken word?
Oh, it's a bit of a long story.
Where did it all start? I'm sure, man. Well, with it, we've got plenty of time. We're on the podcast.
I mean, it's a weird story as well. It's like the most unlikely story. I mean, see, I don't know, since I was a baby, I've always had this problem where, you know, I love connecting with people and like helping others, and like I love making friends, as you could probably tell. I mean, like I've got like 3,784 Facebook friends from my 22 years of living, and like from my photographic memory means I'm able to remember, you know, like all their lives, their birthdays, all the memories and experiences we've shared together regularly. But the reason why this is a problem is because like this, having so many people in my life, it opens me up and makes me more vulnerable to hurt. So I've had loads of my friends who've died, been murdered, raped, committed suicide, and it's taken like a huge toll. Like I've been to more funerals than both my parents combined, and like that. It's like
awful, man.
I know, but when you grow up in a culture where like men aren't encouraged to speak up, and especially coming from an Asian culture like mine, where mental health is sort of taboo to talk about. You know, even with all the thousands of friends that I've ever had, I still felt like I had no one to open up to and talk about my issues with. You know, which is quite sad and ironic, really. I mean, before poetry, I was, you know, resulting to means of like drowning myself in booze and suicide attempts, and which is so unhealthy now. But like, I like to think that I'm on a better path now, where I can, you know, help people and use my own experiences to help others around me.
Yeah. So would you kind of essentially say then that the main reason you got into spoken word is to kind of try and sort out your like thought processes, try and like put some of that negative energy into something that's positive?
Absolutely. I think that is really important. Like I said, like I was going through unhealthy means of coping with all of my mental health issues, and poetry, I find it the most unlikely of places as well, where it just allows you to have this outlet, this creative and expressive outlet. There's two different types of poetry. There's creative poetry and there's expressive poetry.
Okay.
And putting those two together, I found it was the best way, not only to let other people around me, the whole world, know how I'm feeling, but also for me to process my own trauma, or to come to terms with what I've had to go through and not being able to speak up. Like, it's just such a beautiful and perfect way to get thoughts onto a page, and then obviously from page to people. I mean, it's an interesting process, and it is really important.
Yeah, Matt, I mean, that is amazing. So what I want to go back to then is tell me about the very first time you ever got up onto a stage and performed.
Yeah, it's a funny story. In university, what university I went to, Loughborough University.
Okay.
My first year there, still trying to like make a lot of friends. We had this like speech bubble open mic night, and I got encouraged to go up, and I wrote this poem, semi-autobiographical poem called Life, based on this guy called Mike, and a lot of the experiences I've had to go through in my life, like I said, it was in him. So at the time, I wasn't really comfortable with owning up to the stuff that I've had to go through, and I just said, oh, this is Mike, this is about me, this is no one. And then I sort of left it at that. I hadn't like touched poetry at all after then. And then the third year of university, I'd gone, a lot of stuff happened that summer where I had to go to a lot of my friends' funerals, and that first time just before I turned 21 was I was trying to kill myself. And then on my 21st birthday, I had enough, and I wrote this 10-minute spoken word poem. I wrote this 10-minute poem, and I performed it as a video, as a spoken word video, and I put it online on Facebook. I didn't know what was going to happen. I just sort of left it there, and it managed to get like 100 shares and like 12,000 views and something ridiculous. And then like loads of news outlets wanted to repost it onto their newspaper like articles and stuff like that. But at the time, I wasn't actually comfortable with that, so I sort of said no to all of them, because for me that was such a personal story. To me, it was a poem about my whole life, everything I've gone through since I was a kid, why I am who I am, what I do. So I said no. I said no to all of them, and then I graduated from uni through all the stress, through all the funerals, somehow did it. And then I was just looking for a job. And at the time I was looking for a job, I just submitted that death poem. The poem was called Death, the 10-minute poem, to this, I think it was Asia House Poetry Slam, which is really, really cool platform for any upcoming Asian artists out there who want to, you know, perform or share their work. Go check out Spread the Word Writers and Aiz House. They've got a cool Poetry Slam every year. I didn't know about it. I just submitted that poem just as a maybe a joke. I was like, oh, I have nothing better to do. I might as well. And then they said automatically, oh, Aiz, you're in the final. I was like, wait, what? So then I performed there, and then BBC got in touch. And they said, oh, we really want to put you on. And then that was the time where I was like, someone told me, you know, if my story can help other people, then I know that I would have done a good job. And that, for me, that's what poetry is about. Me personally, poetry is about not just helping myself, but helping other people. If other people can relate, then they could, you know, help go through their issues in a similar way, and they can like gain some more perspective on it. So then I went on BBC, and then life just blew up from there.
Well, I mean, what a first great platform to start with, man. Because it's all over your Insta, right? It's your Instagram photo, right? You were at the BBC.
Yeah, the BBC, because it was
that's a great little portal to the
I know, like I didn't know anything about it. It's funny because like it sounds weird, but I actually hated poetry growing up.
Right. Okay.
I hated writing.
Why's that?
I think because of school just constantly teaching you about age-old poetry and nothing contemporary. Like, I didn't have anyone that I could relate to growing up, and not just like Asian artists, but just young artists going through real stuff that me and you go through, like on a day-to-day basis in the 21st century, and especially in London as well. It's such a multicultural place, but there's still so much weird, bad stuff going on that we don't really talk about. And so it was a nice platform to go on, and then going through those big debates and radio shows with the BBC Asian Network, like they put me on, and I'm so grateful for them.
So how old were you when that happened?
I was literally 21. 21, yeah.
That's amazing.
This was only in like November last year, so basically nearly a year ago today.
A year ago.
Yeah.
That's so, and then basically since then, obviously you've been doing loads of open mic nights, and you had your first feature very recently.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a weird process. So I was actually in. It didn't go as smoothly as you might have thought, because like some people just say, oh, he's just done this, and it's just sprung onto like all these different platforms. It's actually quite a hard slog, especially for someone. This is any advice for someone like coming out and just starting out as well, whether it's page poetry or spoken word poetry or film poetry. You know, you've got to put in a lot of hard graft and effort. And at the time when I told you I was just I was looking for a job, I went into recruitment consultancy. Okay. So I was earning like all this money. As soon as you leave university, you just want to make money, right?
It's a weird time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very weird time.
Very odd time.
It's in this age of social media that we've got, we just constantly we have this filter on our lives where we want to be better than other people, or we just want to prove to ourselves that we can make it, you know, and a lot of the time that's in the form of money and financial security. And then I was making all this money, and I was living this like rich white boy lavish rooftop bar lifestyle, which it wasn't. It was just this diet of tequila, and like I enjoyed it for a while, but it wasn't me. And I remember while I was doing recruitment, like I remember there were times when BBC Asian Network, they would call me while I was in work, and they asked me, you know, can you come onto the big debate? Can you interview on radio? And I was like,
and you'd have to say no.
Well, yeah, and I'd have to say no. But then
that would be that's gutting.
I know. And then like if the radio came and called me or you up when we were like kids, we would have jumped at that chance, because it would have been. But then for some reason I was so enwrapped in like making money. I went on. Luckily, my boss was okay, and I went on radio a few times. But I tried to be this for the first time ever a full-time recruitment consultant, part-time poet. And with recruitment consultancy in particular, the hours are so long. I was working like 8 to 8 until midnight. I was coming in weekends.
So how the hell did you find any time to fit in any writing, any creative?
Exactly. I didn't.
You didn't.
I tried my hardest to, because obviously Aiz House and BBC happened in November, and then I was in this job for all those months. Then I went to Boxed In. That was my first. Well, obviously, me and you met.
That's where we met.
And I went.
That is a fantastic night. Isn't it?
Absolutely, it's such a good night, especially for up and coming artists and for also established poets as well. Yeah. Really, really fun. The vibes there are amazing.
The vibes amazing, and also it's free.
Which is not like, you know, it's
no, but I think what that does is literally open it up to everyone.
Of course,
because there's also this night called Mind Over Matter. Yes. You know, which Fisky runs.
Yes.
And
big up mental health awareness. Yeah.
And they I think you can basically say on their website whether you can't afford the ticket, and they can offer you a cheaper price, or some people go free, whatever. And I think it's a great idea that. And I think, you know, having things like that, like Boxed In, which is actually free, it means anyone,
Absolutely.
no matter what stage of like life you're in, no matter how much money you have, you can go. And you can, and it's a fun night.
Yeah, it's so fun.
It's a fun night.
You hear all sorts of stories, and the beauty about it being free and in a place like Box Park, which is, I know it's a product of gentrification. We can have a conversation about that another time. Yeah. But the fact that it's in such a public place is the fact that anyone in the public can just walk in,
stroll in,
and just hear, rather than you're paying for poetry. So, I mean, some people pay for good poetry nights, and that's absolutely fair enough, because they know that the quality that they're going to get. Like, there are places, huge platforms like Chocolate Poetry Club as well, which I hold dear to my heart, because they're always so welcoming. But like, the talent there is absolutely insane. You know what you're paying for. And with Boxed In, even though it's free, the talent there is absolutely incredible.
Everyone's good.
I know. And I think as an industry, as a poetry industry or a creative arts scene, I feel as though we need to be spreading more awareness on all of these platforms, because the more that we introduce people that might not necessarily know about poetry, because it's still quite the young type of poetry scene is still relatively young in London and around the country, compared to like grime or drill or rap or whatever. I feel as though the more that we raise awareness on these types of events for just the ordinary person who might not even know what poetry is, I feel as though that's the only way that we can bring each other up and like show people that we want our voices to be heard. Yeah.
Great, man. Okay, so I would like us to tell me a little bit about your second poem that you're going to do for us. I want to hear the kind of like context, when you wrote it, what kind of mind state you when you were writing about it.
Yeah, absolutely. This next poem that I like to perform, it's called Jhoot, which in my native language of Urdu means lies. So as I was doing recruitment, the Roundhouse Poetry Slam was coming up, and I didn't know what the Roundhouse was, I'm not gonna lie to you. I only found out afterwards that it's this huge gig venue, and like they're huge on arts and like young creatives. They've got so many good projects like the Roundhouse Poetry Collective, the Last Word Festival. Like, it's amazing. And someone just told me, oh, you should go for it. You should apply. You've done Asia House. I think this should be a piece of cake. And I was like, okay. And I looked at some YouTube videos online, and the talent there was so high level, top shelf.
The bar was up there.
The bar was way up there. And and again, like I hadn't written any poetry since that death poem. Yeah. So and obviously they told me the guidelines, like you need to be like a 3-minute poem, 2 3-minute poems. Yeah. And I wrote 2 poems. Two very personal poems. All the poems that I write are very personal to me.
Yes.
I can't be one of those poets that like talks in third person or commentary on society. If I do a commentary on society, it will always be referring to a personal experience of mine. Yeah. So one poem, the first poem that I performed was a poem on the reality of knife crime, because a lot of my friends have been stabbed. I've been poked and threatened with knives in my life. Yeah. Wow. And the second poem was Jhoot, and it was at the same time where I resigned from my recruitment consultancy. Okay. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, that was an interesting time. But I think Roundhouse came at a perfect time for me when I was trying to find myself and what I wanted to do in life. And yeah, this poem just sort of encompasses everything. And I'm really happy to share it with you.
Cool, great. Okay, cool. So, sorry, the name of this second poem is?
Jhoot.
Jhoot. Okay, cool. So this is Aiz with Jhoot.
Beta ab jhoot nahi bolo, which in my native language of Urdu means, son, you must not tell lies. So fuck it, I'll recite this one true story in an attempt for you to visualize. Not to glamorize or antagonize, but to recognize my reality that would never be televised. This one night I'm in the club doing a little 2-step shuffle, trying but failing to dance away the memory of seeing Grenfell Tower burn down a few months prior. Remembering my fallen friends classed as missing was always going to be a struggle. And I see this guy touching girls' bums, moving mad through the crowd on the dance floor like wildfire. And I get punched for pulling him to the side and educating him on consent. Because if we don't call out our own behaviour, then we'll be hearing of cases a lot worse than just sexual harassment. Beda ab jhoot nahi bolo. I'm hitting the bottle again since no one wants to listen to me. Abusing the booze like we abuse the earth, and reducing climate change is an act our government refuses to choose. Stumbling back home and I get this call making me realise red is the colour I'll now see whenever I think of my friend. Red is the hijab of that 19-year-old girl so beautifully wrapped around her head. Red is the car that kidnaps her hysterical, gagged-up body full of dread. Red is the eyes of her uncle, raping her and twisting his knife into her innocent throat. Red is the floor trail into the freezer holding her sliced-up limbs spilling. Red is the TV news logo forever falsely branding this an honour killing. Red is my heart, filled with anguish and despair over a friend I'll never see again. My cheeks, soaked in tears and streams of her good girl next door memory. My teeth, gritting together a soundless scream, still wake up the rest of my family. My brain, rejecting the label of Islam being a terrorist religion when it's really a religion of peace. My ears, fading the rest of the world out into silence as my faith in humanity begins to decrease. My hands, they tremble, shiver like an earthquake riddled with goosebumps on a winter's day revealing its deepest fear. Just as I did each time I attempted and failed to commit suicide last year. Losing myself like Slim Shady, knees weak, arms were heavy, so close to leaving this world, my friends, my mum's biryani, I'm nervous. As depressed and anxious as I tried to tell my parents for the first time. But beta ab jhoot nahi bolo. Do you know what it's like growing up in an Asian culture that teaches you to bottle it up and refuses to believe in mental health downright? Beta ab jhoot nahi bolo. Do you know what it's like having survivor's guilt from 11 friends' funerals over a 9-month blight? Beta ab jhoot nahi bolo. Do you know what it's like waking up in cold sweats, wishing the pillow you slept on had smothered you in the night? Beta ab jhoot nahi bolo. Ami ab jhoot nahi bol rahe. I could have used these few word-spoken podcast minutes to recite effervescent metaphors and similes about scenery or heartbreak. But here I am sharing the reality of slitting my wrist this way rather than that way. Because I've decided I'm just not that kind of poet. I am the sacrificed voice for the voiceless and marginalised, but low self-esteem means I've only articulated these thoughts to a live audience a handful of times before. I am the curry-munching, packy cockroach from ends, finally exposing my naked thoughts, but exposing my naked body in stop and search is what airports still adore. I am that reminder that you will share with your close ones to love each other, love yourselves, and communicate regularly, as if it's the last thing I say in chat. I am Aiz, and you just listened to my entire life. So tell me, where's the fucking lie in that?
That was fantastic.
Thank
that
you,
was
man.
a really powerful piece, man. I was nearly tearing up myself. How
Fuck.
You're right. You're okay.
I'm good. Yeah,
mate. I can totally see why that brings a lot of emotion for you. You're so honest in that, and you're so raw. What that was, wow, man. Like you hide behind nothing in that, and that is amazing to see. That's exactly, I think, the reason why the spoken word thing that we all do has such great purpose.
yeah, absolutely.
Right?
It's a good catharsis, and it lets you come out with like a lot of stuff that you're feeling out into words. So sometimes you can't articulate. I think a poet's job is to articulate the feelings and thoughts that people can't necessarily express.
Yeah.
It's their responsibility, and like the beauty of it, you can do whatever you want to with that responsibility, however you want to. I think with poetry, there's no structure, there's no form that you have to conform to. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah.
And we can potentially help other people along the way, possibly going through similar stuff as well. You never know who's listening.
100%.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Okay, so my next kind of question, man, is I want to know about your writing process, because I hope that some of the people listening to this podcast will be looking to get into spoken word themselves. Maybe they actually have quite a lot. That is one thing I would say. Please do.
Yeah.
But they might have loads of things written down, and they're not sure whether it kind of going to transpose well to the spoken word scene.
Yeah.
How do you approach coming up with a concept, writing it, memorizing it, and performing it? Tell me your process.
It's interesting. I get a lot of writer's block, which I'm sure all of us can relate to.
Yeah.
And when I do get writer's block, I genuinely can't get out of it. And then all of a sudden, when I've got this idea, or when I really want to get something off my chest, everything floods out, and then the writer's block comes back in. So I'm not the kind of person where I can write every day. I tried to have this book every morning. As soon as I'd wake up, I just write my thoughts, what I was dreaming of, what I want to do for the rest of the day, what poetry that inspired me the day before. And it did go well for a little while, and I got a few poems out of that. However, I don't feel as though you should restrict yourself to a rigid schedule of poetry, because otherwise then it will feel like work, and poetry should never feel like work. It should feel like an expressive outlet for you.
Yeah.
And if you want it, it can be for other people as well. It's up to you.
Yeah.
So when I write, I like to type stuff.
Okay. Yeah. So you kind of do it on a laptop or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. I sometimes write in my book, but again, as I was saying to you earlier, when I write in my book with a pen and a pad, that's more of the expressive poetry, and I feel as though that's really important to just get your thoughts and feelings out, not necessarily editing or like writing a poem, but like writing poetry or free writing is so important. I feel as though more and more of us should do.
Yeah.
But then when you want to create a creative piece, a creative poem, and I like doing it on a laptop or a computer, because obviously you can edit it a lot easier.
Exactly. You can
do it on a phone, like you could do it on your memos or your notepad or like whatever. Chop and change, like you said. So then I like to like spend a good while on that poem, maybe like no more longer than a day. If it does trickle into another day, then clearly I've got something to say.
Yeah. So you essentially from start to finish in one day will have a whole poem. It's kind of one thought
pretty much
process all in one go. Yeah. That's it.
Because I feel as though like it's hard to, when you get out of the zone, then you're out of the zone.
Of course.
I'll be honest, like I can't be one of those people where it's like, oh, I've got this sick poem off the top of my head, I'll write it down and it just comes out naturally. Some people are naturally talented like that. I feel as though, like with my self-esteem and confidence issues, I still don't think I'm talented. I still feel as I've got a long way to go. And there are so many people on this scene that are inspiring me, people like yourself, that you're following your passion. No, I'm being serious. Like you follow your passion.
Thanks, man.
And that for me fuels my desire to try and do the best I can so I can impress you and impress myself at the same time.
Yeah.
And also like with writing styles and coming up with poems, there is no form to follow.
Exactly.
Which is so funny and so fucked up and so beautiful about it all. Is like you can do however you're comfortable with. I feel as though the minute that you start to do a schedule, you start to follow what other people are doing, number one, you're going to be uncomfortable. Number two, your poetry isn't going to, it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. Your poetry is going to look like and sound like and feel like someone else's poetry. And the beauty of why your poetry is so good, whoever's listening right here, is because it's to do with you. It's individual.
Yes.
And there are thousands and millions of creatives out there, but there's only one you. So you need to follow yourself.
I think that's something else which is one of the reasons why I just fell in love with it so much, is whenever you go to an open mic night, I mean, first of all, no one poet is the same, as you said, but also no one poem is the same from the same poet.
So many stories.
There is just so much, and you get such a variety at these kind of nights, which is I don't think you get that in any other art form.
I wish more people knew about it.
I know.
Yeah.
It doesn't vary. It varies so much. You get some people which come up and they are like utter. There's almost like comedians. They're like super funny. You get some people which come up and they'll tell you something really personal. You get some people which come up and they're just creative, like they're writing and they're imagining these like worlds,
like
and
punchlines,
you get rappers, punchlines. It's really anything and everything, isn't it? It's word spoken.
Exactly.
What a little hook that
word
was.
Spoken. Follow us on WordSpoken podcast.
Exactly, you know it. One more thing I want to ask you about, mate, is what you were up to yesterday.
Oh, I had a headline gig.
Yes.
It was the second headline gig in a week. It's been a crazy week for me.
It's so great to see it as well, because you on the scene, right? You're probably one of the hardest working people that I've met.
Do you think? Because I don't think I work hard enough. I try. I'm trying my best.
You're on everywhere.
That's all you can do in life is try, yeah.
And I just think, essentially, as you said, you're kind of a year in. The fact that you're getting these headline slots and you're starting on your path to going higher and higher and up the chain, it's wicked to see.
I
man.
Appreciate it.
So tell me about yesterday. What
so like I said, yesterday was the second headline gig. The first headline gig that I had, it was called World's Words on Thursday. Yesterday was Sip and Rhyme. It's funny because, like I said earlier, like just be yourself, and when you're yourself, you network and you make friends in the poetry, and then they want to book you and they want to bring you on. And like I said, I didn't think I'd be booked or headlining anything until maybe next year. I don't know. That's the beauty of poetry. This scene, there's no blueprint.
There isn't.
There isn't a blueprint. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. For some reason, I thought, I have to be doing this for a year, and then I'll be doing headline slots. Blah blah. I didn't do any of this to do headline slots. I did this as a catharsis to release some energy from myself and to help other people at the same time.
Yeah,
And if
I think you have to focus on that.
Exactly.
Right? The minute
come. Yeah, exactly. The minute that you start wanting to do, I want to do headlines. I want to make money from this. Again, your quality is going to drop.
Yeah, it will.
And and when you're yourself, you'll do far. And also just trust yourself, trust the process. I think a lot of people nowadays, they just want to jump on and do things straight away. We're living in this culture, in this society, especially our generation. We want everything on a plate for ourselves, and we're not willing to work for it, put graft in, or just be ourselves. I think just try and be patient, and good things will come to you.
Yeah.
And then the World's Words gig on Thursday, amazing vibe. It was poetry in different languages.
Yeah, so I saw a couple of clips on your Insta, and it looked amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's just because I think with poetry, it's very personal, but then hearing poetry from people with different languages I didn't understand, some of them didn't have to translate it for us, and that for me was still profound. It had a profound impact on me, my friends, people that I didn't know, strangers, because people are comfortable and they're in their zone. And then when I was doing some of my poetry, I like to incorporate some Urdu. So obviously I'm second generation immigrant, British Pakistani. I've got bloodlines from different countries and relatives, but mainly Pakistani and British. I was born here, but my parents were born in Pakistan, and then Urdu is our language. So I was using Urdu in a lot of my poetry as more of a positive note. So it was nice. And then Sip and Rhyme yesterday was this amazing workshop led by Fausta Jolly, who I've met her quite a few times and seen. She's one of the funniest poets, so definitely check her out. And World's Words by a group of boys, Tiago and Leandro Pestana.
Shout out.
Yeah, definitely shout out. Follow them. Follow everyone that you meet. Show love to everyone that you meet. Follow this podcast. Follow Henry. Follow everyone that's trying to do well for themselves and for yourselves. But yeah, yesterday was it was a workshop on creative responses to hate and fear.
Okay. Do you know what? So I've actually never gone to a spoken word workshop. Sorry, it's a poetry workship.
Yeah,
right?
poetry workshop.
So I've actually never gone to one. So
oh my god,
what are they about? Tell me what happens when you kind of go there and then.
Yeah. I didn't know that they were a thing this time last year. I'm still relatively new to this scene. I've only been doing it for a year, but
which is incredible, by the way, man, for how amazing you are. A year, that's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's. I think poetry is a unique thing to be doing, and I think we should all be finding our own. Even if it's not poetry, we should all be finding our own creative outlets to express ourselves in, whether it's through sport, through writing, through singing, music, video games. I don't know, but the workshop's quite interesting because they guide you. And sometimes, especially when you've got writer's block, a lot like me, sometimes they kick up the butt to write something or have an exercise where people are in the same space writing. That does inspire you a lot to get words on a page. And like I said, it was for the Shout Out Festival for Apple Car Arts in East London, looking at creative responses to fear and hate. So they had loads of different plays on, loads of different events. And Faust's workshop, Sip and Rhyme, it gets everyone together. And we look at love rights, do's and don'ts for our own fears and what we have fears for society. Obviously, there's a big, climate crisis going on. So a lot of us are talking about that, having discussion, and that inspired other people to write about that. And then you can come up and share your poems. And the beauty of Sip and Rhyme yesterday was the fact that there were some people that had never written poetry before in their lives. And the stuff that they came out with, just because we guided them a little bit and we inspired them with our own poems, was insane.
Really? So I guess for them, it's a total blank slate, right?
Exactly.
They come to this for the first time, you're kind of nudging them in the right direction, and then suddenly they come out with something really amazing.
Exactly. I'm a big believer in the pay it forward scheme, this idea that if we nudge someone or encourage someone to do something positive for society, then they'll go on to create their own stuff, and then they'll do it for other people, and then those other people will do it for other people, and then it's just a whole, and it'll come back to you, and it's a beauty of life. It's a circle of life. That's great,
mate. I mean, you're a prime example of someone that does exactly that. You always shout out other people, on your Insta after one night. You've got everyone tagged on there. You make sure that everyone and you really share everyone else's work, man. You're the most selfless person I think I've ever met.
I'm not even joking. I'm touched. I just feel as though we live in a society where people think that everyone is competition and that there's no space for anyone to eat on the table, but we should all be supporting each other and bringing each other up, like whatever crafts or work that we do, or professions or careers, we should all be bringing each other up. Like there is space for everyone to eat, and the more we support each other, the more we can learn about each other's cultures. There's such a big divide in society right now. People don't understand each other, and that leads to violence, poverty, austerity, wars. And the more that we actually have a dialogue with each other, and we support each other, promote each other on social media, is such a big thing. Make the most of it. Use it.
Well, I mean, that is another thing I think which is perhaps very unique to the spoken word scene. Is everyone is so supportive of one another.
We're quite welcoming and warming, which is amazing.
It's not dog eat dog, is it?
No,
it's so open. Everyone.
I can come up to you after box in and just have a conversation. I don't think we could do that maybe at a concert or.
No way. There's you in most other art forms, you never really break down that barrier, do you? Whereas on the spoken word scene, I imagine it's the same throughout the rest of the world and throughout the rest of the UK. But
you hope so.
In London, it is so supportive.
Oh, there's so many events, like north, south, east, west,
everywhere.
I mean, like me and you, we're in south right now, and there's quite a few events going on, and every day. Oh my god! Like, guys, if you're working or you're stressed or you want something to like relieve any mental toll that you've got going on, go on Eventbrite or follow us, and like we're shouting out all these different poetry events all the time. And like any day that you want to chill out, go to enjoy some poetry with some friends, go to them, learn, enjoy, have a laugh. Like you said earlier, Henry, like there's a variety of stories to be told, whether it's deep poetry, funny poetry, dark humor. Like it's great. Yeah,
it's incredibly broad, isn't it? Okay, so I feel like it's probably time to do your third poem.
Right, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this third one. And just give us a brief intro to the third piece.
Sure thing. This poem is called Serotonin. Now, I haven't actually talked about this as much as I probably should have. I wrote this a while back. It's one of the first pieces I ever wrote. But I performed it for my first headline gig at World's Words, which was also the same day as World Mental Health Day.
Okay, yeah.
And so I thought it would just be perfect. And it's just a reflection on my mental health that I don't really talk about, but I should. It's just a reflection of my mental health that I don't really talk about, but I should. And
great.
Yeah, I'd love to share it with you guys.
Cool. And what's it called?
Serotonin.
Sorry, you said that, didn't you?
Yeah. No, it's fine. Absolutely fine.
Okay, cool. So, we'll go with the third poem from Aiz called Serotonin.
Awesome. How do I start this? How can I phrase this? This chemical's driving me to write such a long-winded list. A list of every way it's affected me since I could first feel and think. It's called serotonin, and I find my relationship with it so interesting. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter travelling around every single one of our bodies. But the serotonin I'm on about is the one manufactured in our brain, a chemical that helps regulate our mood. Man, that's a real ball and chain. When its levels are normal, you're emotionally stable, calm and focused, because it mainly contributes to our feelings of well-being and happiness. Happiness. Happy. Am I happy? Are you happy? I don't know about you, but I question my happiness on a daily, trying to figure out if it's legit. My low self-esteem and negative thoughts able to dip my big man ting confidence and optimism more than I hate to admit. The same dip I see kids trying to do to each other now with arm-length knives. We scroll through filmed attacks on our timeline. I cry why they don't care for their lives. A like and a laugh nowadays is worth more than being covered in blood to drown. For me, that's already cut more serotonin down. Hitting a bottle after each friend of mine dying. Down. Getting cheated on after falling for someone. Down. Silencing the pain after attempts on my life I've made. Down. So, Aiz, do you want the opposite of down? Try these antidepressants. They'll keep you smiling and make sure you never frown. Finally admitting to myself what I suffer with was more powerful than a diagnosis, full stop. Even though it's not clear whether low serotonin levels are what cause depression or whether depression causes serotonin levels to drop. The reality remains that this annoyingly romanticized illness is involved with its chemical imbalance. So I suppose SSRIs are just what the doctor ordered. selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, blocking reabsorption of serotonin so our brain increases levels of these neurotransmitters. Over a long period of time, being prescribed different doses of each, from citalopram to sertraline, to try make my mental health feel less like the bumpers of a pinball machine. Sure, they made me even more sociable than the extrovert I usually am, butterflying around different social circles to get to know every human I could. But their side effects sure toyed with my anxiety disorder. Panic attacks waking me up in cold sweats over dead friends who can't ever grow up to see adulthood. The counselling I sought and learning to confide in others has helped me more than I could have realised. Two big things in my life that for some reason I always stigmatised. Now, I internally highlight the little things in life increasing my serotonin levels further up. Like when the beat drops in the club, up. Like when I'm with someone I'm into, we both reach a climax, up. Like when I skateboard down a hill and feel the wind combing through my hair, up. So much that's up and so much that I'm grateful for. Right now, I think I have the right balance of serotonin, so do I really need any more? Maybe in future I'll need to have different doses of SSRIs. Maybe I won't. The future does carry uncertainty and surprise. So it's the present I focus on, and overthinking ahead I just don't. But if you who's listening think you might need this kind of quick fix, seek help straight away and do enough research to avoid the wrong kind of mix. This world of mental health is not something that you're alone in. At least you know now I'm here for you with my poem on serotonin.
Aiz, thank you so much for that. Wow, that was an amazing piece. When did you write that?
Probably in the last year. I can't remember when.
Yeah.
I've sort of been adding to it every now and then. It's one of the only pieces I've been able to like add to every now and then. Usually I write poems like do it in a day, but I think with this one, I think it's just so hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Even though I am a big advocate for speaking about your mental health and like doing it through poetry, I think for some reason this particular piece about serotonin, it's just been truly difficult to talk about. But luckily I have a platform as important and beautiful and creative as this WordSpoken podcast where I can talk about it. And hopefully I'll release it sometime soon. Hopefully, you can release it here, and like if it helps someone, then I know that I've done a good thing in my life, and I want to help. I think the time that I knew that I definitely wanted to share it was the time when I resigned from my recruitment consultancy. I was working for this company called Opus, and they were absolutely amazing. I had loads of offers from different recruitment companies, but I chose Opus because of the family feel. Even though I know what I was getting into with the long hours. I knew that I could make a lot of money and get a family from Opus. I'm always looking for a good family. Which shows a lot about me. So deep home issues. But and the time that I told them, it was just after the Roundhouse slam where I thought maybe I can do poetry a bit more full time. Or like with all the money I've saved, I can like invest all the money that I earn, all that from that lavish rooftop bar lifestyle. I can do it for people that I believe in, for charities I believe in, events. I want to fund businesses that I truly think that could make a difference in the world. That's what I've been putting my money towards. I feel as though, because I look at money so differently. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Money is a different financial thing where you should use wisely. And obviously, it puts a roof over your head and stuff like that as well. But there's so much more that you can do with it. And when I resigned, they were like, what are you doing? Why are you resigning from, what did you do? Go to another recruitment consultancy? Usually people go to another recruitment consultancy and go to another job. And I'm like, no, I just want to do poetry. And they're like, wait, what?
I love that.
And then,
love that.
Because I performed a poem resigning.
Did you?
Yeah.
No way. Wait, I want to hear. Was it about? It was about
everything. It's quite weird. Like
that's how you resigned.
Yeah, no one's ever done that.
No one has ever done that.
That
is fantastic.
Every morning with Opus, I'm sure other companies have it as well. We have morning shots where, not shots of tequila, but shots where we go through what everyone wants to do for the week, or what interviews or jobs that they got planned to build or to help other people get jobs. You go around in the room, and when it got to me, I had this poem said basically giving shout outs to everyone in my team, my contracts team, and like saying how much I love each and every one of them. Halfway through, I was like, but it's the most scariest and most difficult decision I've ever had to make, but I've decided to leave this company. And then everyone was like, oh, wait, what's like whispering? And then my boss is standing right next to me. He's like, you fucking dick. Because I hadn't told him. And when I was shaking, I just had to carry on with the poem. And I just explained that as much as I loved this company and this community and the fact that this job, and I was good at it. I was a really good recruitment consultant. I built like I think 60 to 100k in like less than a year. And I was because I like people. I'm good with people.
Yeah,
I'm good with networking.
I mean, I can totally see that.
Well, that thing is that's the only thing that I pride myself in being good at in life.
Yeah,
even with my shit self-esteem, being good with people and speaking to people was like the only thing that I could think of that I'm good at. But then I had like a 4-hour exit interview, which is so long. They were like, bless them, they wanted to find out if me doing poetry was financially stable, if it was a good career path, are you gonna have anything else? And I said, yeah, obviously I might have to find a part-time job here and there, or do stuff, or like and I have done, I do that sort of stuff as well. But I think in life, once you realize that you want to incorporate a passion into your life, which I think we should all do, the last thing you want to do is follow the blueprint of the older generation's society, where you go to a 9-to-5 job until you retire, same 9-to-5 job or whatever. I think now with the society and generation we're living in, we've got so much choice out there that we can sustain ourselves through different means and a variety of means. And for me, obviously, poetry just came at the right time when my mental health was at an all-time low and serotonin came up. I just wanted to do something that makes me happy. And it was a huge risk. It was a big leap. No one in my family had ever done that before. None of my friends had ever done that before.
Mate, I love it. I mean, that is a bold step. Let's be perfectly honest. It's one which actually not a lot of. I've met, obviously there's lots of people that have kind of been on the scene for a while and are doing it now, but a year in, and that it is amazing. I really commend you for your bravery, really, because lots of other people, including myself, we are working in jobs. This is a side thing.
You just got to put your mental health first. Like, if it's going such an all-time low where mine was, where I was working these tireless hours, even though I loved it, I knew that it wasn't good for me. I wasn't getting enough sleep. My diet was all over the place. My gym was all over the place. I wasn't getting enough time for poetry.
Exactly.
Which the whole point is I wanted to do it part-time, but I knew I couldn't. So I needed to find a job that would have less hours. Maybe recruitment's not for me, but I did well while I was there. But I need a bit more serotonin. I needed a bit more serotonin. Right now, like I said, I think I have the right balance. And
amazing.
I'm here. I'm very self-aware of everything, and I can support other people and support myself, and like have a conversation and dialogue with you here. And I'm loving it. I'm loving life for the first time in life. So,
wicked, well, mate. That is a amazing thing to hear, because you're such a lovely guy. You're an amazing poet,
you, man.
Honestly, and I'm so happy that you're in a happy place. So I have one final question before we wrap up, and that is, what is next for Aiz? What's coming up? What's on the horizon?
I hate that question.
I know, it's tough. I'm sorry, but I thought I would end on it.
No, absolutely. I just think what's next for me is making myself happy and making other people happy. There's, like I said before, there's no blueprint. There's no like trajectory of what different events I could do. I'm just going to carry on doing my thing, performing poems that I'm passionate about. Especially on my YouTube, youtube.com/Aiz Hussain, and my Instagram, at Aiz Poetry, at Aiz Poetry, that's AIZ Poetry, and also your Facebook, Aiz Poetry, whatnot. And it's just like, I've got a few poems that I want to release, a few music videos maybe. I've never tried any of that, so it's all new territory, new ground to me. But
of course,
I'm excited to see where other creatives want to collaborate. So if anyone wants to come up and do a poem with me, or if anyone's got ideas for anything, like I would love to. Like, this is what like as soon as you asked me, I said absolutely, I'd love to go on WordSpoken.
Which I'm so grateful for.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me so much. And just I've got this interesting poem called Cancel Culture coming up, just commenting on cancel culture and how we're so quick to jump on the bandwagon to publicly shame people and say people, which I've got a big issue about. And that's the part of the poetry set that I performed at Sip and Rhyme, the headline gig yesterday.
Okay, cool.
And I've also got this weird thing where, so like I said, a few friends of mine died, and I performed a poem at one of my friends' funerals. So that was a new experience for me, and I've got a wedding coming up where I'm performing a poem there. So weirdly enough, I can call myself a poet who's done a poem at a funeral and a wedding, celebrating life and death, sort of thing.
Quite a broad spectrum of events there.
I never would have thought, tell me a year ago that I'd be doing that, then yeah. But I just think that's the beauty of where poetry takes you. You don't have to do poetry at events. You can do poetry in your bedroom. You can do poetry for yourself. You can do poetry for your family, or for like one friend. Regardless, you found your creative outlet, whatever that may be, and you can let it out there, and it'll make yourself feel a lot better about yourself. And as a society, we need to be showing more self-love and taking care of ourselves as well as taking care of everyone around us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me, Henry.
Thank you very much.
I really hope people listen to this and the amazing lineup of posts that you've got on WordSpoken podcast, because this is going to be insane.
It is.
I can't wait to share your work to so many people out there.
Great. Well, I think on that note, we will wrap up. So yeah, as I said, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on, sharing your work. You know, this is really, really personal stuff. And you came on and you spoke with such honesty, so raw. And you've got amazing talent. I cannot wait to see what the next year has got in store for you. Because if this is you after 1 year, I mean, wow. So yeah, make sure you follow him on all of the social media networks, which he mentioned just then. And also follow WordSpoken podcast on Instagram predominantly at the moment. So follow up to see who's going to come on to the episode next week. I'm so excited about it. It's going to be she's an amazing poet. I won't give away too much. I performed with her
at the Roundhouse Poetry Slam. She was sitting right next to me the first time I met her, and she will blow your socks off. She's great.
Yeah, I'm really chuffed. So stay tuned for that. Big thank you to Aiz, and yeah, thank you for listening.